This coming season, the New York Knicks have many point guards, and we are all trying to figure out which one is going to start. A lot of people have a strong case that this guy might be our starting point guard for next season. Let's see what you think. What is good, CK crew? It's your boy CK2K. Welcome back to the second episode of Knicks Story. First and foremost, love you guys so much for your support in the first one. Y'all loved that episode on Mitchell Robinson. If you have not already seen it, go check it out right now. There should be an eye right there. You click on that eye, check out the first episode before you watch this one. Also, merch, link is in the description below. Copy merch. You guys are amazing. Much love to you guys, and let's move on with this video. So this is the second episode of Knicks Story, and this episode is about our 6'0" point guard, Mr. Trey Burke. Now, the guy that we know to be Trey Burke was born on November 12th, 1992 as Alfonso Clark Trey Burke III. That's right, Alfonso. We know Trey to be a Michigan Wolverine graduate who was drafted 9th overall by the Minnesota Timberwolves in the 2013 NBA draft, only to be immediately dealt to the Utah Jazz. But let's rewind a little bit to the beginning of his basketball career, as today's Knicks Story, like I said, is on Trey Burke. Trey Burke is the only son of 3. His parents are Rhonda and Alfonso Clark Benji Burke II. They met while attending Northwest Missouri State University, where Benji played D2 ball. Now in 4th grade, he became best friends with a young Jared Sullinger, you know, the Jared Sullinger we all know, but would later move to Atlanta in the 6th grade when they were separated. That ended up being short-lived, as he ended up going to the same high school with Jared Sullinger at Northland High School, where Satch Sullinger, Jared's father, was the head coach. Now Trey chose to go to Northland over Eastmore Academy, where Trey's father was actually the assistant coach. Now, as you'd expect, Trey actually made the varsity team his freshman year, but as you might not expect, he didn't play many minutes. Between his freshman year and sophomore year, Trey was unable to play with Jared's AAU team because he was a year younger, but that didn't really stop Burke from receiving his first scholarship offer from Akron University. And again, he didn't play many minutes that freshman year. In Trey's sophomore season, he managed to get playing time while averaging 10.7 points per game and 9.1 assists. In that season, Northland made it to the 2009 OHSAA Division I Regional Finals, where they won 54-53 against Dublin Seattle High School, where Trey made some vital free throws in overtime to help them secure that victory. Now, junior year, Trey Burke and Jared Sullinger both dominated by beating 2 of the top teams the year before in Oak Hill Academy and Finlay Prep. Northland went undefeated that year and was ranked #1 in the nation by ESPN, well up until they were beaten until the 2010 OHSAA Regional Final against, well, that's right, against Lincoln High. After that loss, they fell from #1 to out of the top 10. Now, before his senior season, Trey signed his national letter of intent with Michigan, and in that same season, he would be playing without his good friend Jared Sullinger since he graduated and was going on to play at Ohio State. Northland dropped to number 44 in the nation, and after that season, they ended with a 26-2 record, where they will ultimately be ranked at number 45. But in his senior season, Burke averaged 23.3 points per game, 6.7 assists, and 2.6 steals per game. Trey Burke went on to college very decorated, as he was the 2009 OHSAA D1 state champ, 2011 Parade All-American on the second team, 2011 Associated Press Ohio's Mr. Basketball, and was ultimately ranked 15th by ESPN.com, 20th by Scouts.com, and 26th by Rivals.com amongst all point guards in the nation in 2011. Now, throughout his entire career, Northland went 97-5. 97-5. Now, past high school, we all know Trey Burke played 2 seasons with Michigan, but his first game was a bit of a disappointment, as he only scored 3 points in 18 minutes against Ferris State. Trey ultimately had a, well, relatively solid freshman year, averaging 14.8 points per game, 4.6 assists, while shooting 43% from the field. He earned the 2011-2012 Big Ten Freshman of the Year award, while he had to share it with Cody Zeller. Burke led the Wolverines to the NCAA tournament in 2012 to only lose their first game against Ohio. After his freshman season with Michigan, Burke ultimately declared for the 2012 NBA draft, but later decided to return to Michigan for another season in hopes to become a higher pick in the next draft. Now in Trey's sophomore year, he had a strong season. He averaged 18.6 points per game, 6.7 assists, and had 1.7 steal per game. Oh, and did I mention he shot 46% from the field? He was honored with so many awards throughout the season, from multiple Big Ten Conference Players of the Week to the Oscar Robertson National Players of the Week nods. In the 2013 NCAA Men's Basketball Tournament, Trey Burke, Tim Hardaway Jr., Nick Stoskis, and Glenn Robinson III all led Michigan to the championship game against Louisville, where Burke put up 24 points in a loss. Some say that the crucial play that put the game away was the pin block against Peyton Silva. That was definitely a block, but they called a foul. I don't know. Let me know what you think right now.
And up ahead it's Silva. Burke to defend. Oh, they call a foul. And Burke can't believe it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the block route, but that was back in 2013, so who cares? We're past it. Trey Burke went on to win almost every award that you can think of at the collegiate level. He won the Bob Cousy Award, the Oscar Robertson Trophy, the John R. Wooden Award, the NABC Player of the Year, and the Naismith College Player of the Year Award, which gave him a full sweep of all 4 major player awards for that season. So for those who thought that maybe he shouldn't have stayed that past year, Trey knew what he was doing. Now came the 2013 NBA draft, where, like I said earlier, Burke was drafted 9th overall to the Timberwolves to only be moved to the Utah Jazz right after. Now Burke played 3-ish seasons with the Jazz, and he showed signs of promise his rookie season, only to go down from there. Now Trey had surgery on his right index finger that he broke right before the season started, and he had to miss 6 weeks. To put into perspective, he played the 13th game with the Jazz, and before that they were 1-11. So that's the thing that happened with Utah. In his debut, he scored 11 points in 12 minutes of play, going 5 of 8. He was then awarded the starting role in his 3rd game, where he played for 20 minutes and only scored 4 points with 4 assists. Now from there, his rookie year would continue to go up, as he was awarded a few Rookie of the Week honors and ultimately a Rookie of the Month award for January, where he led all rookies in assists at 6.8. At the end of the season, he averaged 12.8 points per game, 5.7 assists, and shot 38% from the field. And he ended up finishing the all-rookie 3rd team. Now, in his sophomore year in the NBA, this is when things started to go downhill for Trey Burke's NBA career. Now, the Utah Jazz that year drafted a young Australian point guard in Dante Exum. And because of that, a lot of people thought he was on the hot seat. Now, he did manage to average around the same stats that season, but it wasn't really resulting in any wins, which ultimately led the Jazz to start Dante Exum towards the end of the season, putting Burke on the bench. Now, earlier this year, he did admit that when the Jazz drafted Dante Exum, and also when they fired Tyron Corbin to bring on the coach that they have now, Quinn Snyder, he did feel like he was constantly on edge, and he was not able to win over the new coaching staff. After Dante Exum went down with a torn ACL, most people thought that this would be the opportunity that Trey Burke needed to show that he is still their go-to PG, but instead Quinn Snyder decided to start Raul Neto over him. Raul Neto, somebody that I think he's actually still on the team. I don't know much about Raul Neto. Now, with his final year with the Jazz, he'd only play about 20 minutes, averaging 10.6 points per game and 2.3 assists. That same summer, the Jazz traded Burke away to the Washington Wizards in exchange for a 2nd-round pick. Once again, many thought that this would be a great opportunity for him, as he would be the backup for John Wall. I mean, he could be playing behind John Wall and learning everything he needs to learn from John Wall. Also, a lot hoped that maybe he'd be the 6th man for this very guard-heavy Washington Wizards team. But sadly, it really didn't pan out the way that a lot of people thought. Ultimately, he had a pretty mediocre season, which led the Wizards to signing Brandon Jennings towards the end of the year. Yes, Brandon Jennings. For a lot of people that might not know, Brandon Jennings was just let go by the Knicks because Brandon Jennings wanted to be on a winning team going to the playoffs. You know, a team that wasn't dysfunctional, aka our Knicks, aka the Phil Jackson era. I mean, thank you to Phil. You know what? I'm just gonna let it go. Phil Jackson's gone. Brandon Jennings ended up taking up most of Burke's minutes towards the end of the season, as well as the playoffs. Burke went on to average his career lows with the Washington Wizards, with 5 points per game, 1.8 assists, and 0.2 steals per game. Once the season was over, Trey Burke had agreed to a non-guaranteed deal with the OKC Thunder, but then decided to opt out of it so he could become a free agent. Now, as a lot of you guys might imagine, after having a very, very terrible season like the one he had, not many teams were interested in him. Well, until the New York Knicks decided to make the gamble and bring him on, only to then waive him a few days later. But Trey Burke then shortly decided to sign with the Knicks G League team, the Westchester Knicks, where the real rebirth of Trey Burke began. Trey caught the attention of many Knicks fans when he put up a dominant 43 points to set a Westchester single game scoring record. Burke would lead the Westchester Knicks to a 9-4 record while averaging 26.6 points per game, 5.4 assists, and 1.3 steals before he was ultimately called up to play for the New York Knicks and be reunited with a familiar face. You know who it is. And then he made his debut on Martin Luther King Day, where he scored 5 points and had 2 dimes in 8 minutes of play. Then in late January, Burke tallied his first double-double with the squad, scoring 18 points and adding 11 assists against the Denver Nuggets. And this was the moment that won over the Knicks fans as well as the coaches. Shortly after that, they decided to make him the starting point guard for the rest of the season. In his tenure with the Knicks, he brought his totals back to what they looked like his first 2 years in the league, averaging 12.6 points per game, 4.6 assists per game, and 1.9 boards in 35 games with the Knicks. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, he has another year with the Knicks, and as of right now, a lot of people are debating whether it's going to be him or Frank Ntilikina to be the starter for the beginning of the 2018-2019 season. But one thing is for sure, after his past season, Trey Burke seems to have finally found his pacing in the NBA. He's a score-first undersized guard that, when he's confident, can easily drop 20 to 30 points on you any night. Are you starting him this season? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this Knicks story. It's about one of my favorite players on the team, Mr. Trey Burke. But let me know who you want to see me talk about in the next Knicks story. I really appreciate you guys' support and your love. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on both of my socials, and I will see you guys in the next video. Much love, everybody.